Welcome back to ABA Chapter Chat.
Great to be back.
We're diving deep today, really getting into the bedrock of what we do as behavior professionals, particularly for registered behavior technicians, RBTs.
Yeah, this isn't just about, a list of rules to follow.
No, exactly. It's about the fundamental ethical principles that, they shape our entire practice, don't they?
They absolutely do. Think of them as the core values. They drive how we interact with clients, families, our colleagues, the whole community, really.
And this deep dive is focused squarely on understanding these essential principles.
That's the plan.
Our source material for this exploration, it comes straight from Chapter 2 of the RBT Ethics Code. And our mission today is to really unpack these principles, figure out where they come from, understand them, and maybe most importantly, see how they apply in practical, real-world ways for you in your daily work.
And the source material makes a really powerful point right at the start. Being a behavior analyst or an RBT, it fundamentally means being part of a culture of caring.
The culture of caring, I like that.
Yeah, and these ethical values, they aren't new ideas someone just came up with. They have really deep historical roots. I mean, the word ethics itself.
Right.
It comes from the Greek word ethos, which basically means moral character.
Wow. So connecting our modern professional code all the way back to ancient Greece, thinking about character, that really does put things in perspective.
It does. And the source also points out that the specific principles we're going to talk about today, they're based on 9 principles, first outlined by Koocher and Keith-Spiegel.
Ah, yes, the 1998 book, Ethics in Psychology.
That's the one. And while, it was initially written for psychologists, the authors, and our source highlights this, they intended these principles to apply much more broadly.
So not just psychology?
No, across various helping professions, even things like animal training. And they certainly form a crucial foundation for us in behavior analysis.
Okay, that makes sense. So let's dive into these core principles then, one by one, starting with one that might feel pretty familiar. Maybe echoes something people have heard before.
Yeah, I think so. That's doing no harm.
Right.
It's a principle usually linked with the Hippocratic Oath for physicians, First, do no harm.
Seems obvious, doesn't it? Of course we wouldn't intentionally harm someone.
Well, yes, but the source really emphasizes that harm isn't always overt or intentional. It can be subtle, unintended even, and it requires constant vigilance.
So what's a key example the source gives of how that subtle harm might happen, especially for RBTs?
Practicing outside your area of expertise. That's a big one.
Ah, okay. So you might have the best intentions.
Exactly. You want to help a client with something new, some challenge, but if you haven't actually been trained or supervised properly in that specific area,
you could end up using procedures that don't work, or worse.
Right. You could inadvertently implement ineffective or even harmful procedures. And the source connects this directly to specific RBT codes like 3.03, 3.04, and 3.05. Those deal with competence and staying within your boundaries.
I gotcha. So it's about recognizing your limits, knowing when to say, hey, I need more training, or this is outside my scope, and getting that supervision.
Precisely. Okay, moving to the second principle. Respecting autonomy.
Autonomy.
Fundamentally, this just means promoting independence, self-sufficiency, helping the individual make choices about their own life.
And this one feels so deeply embedded in good ABA practice, doesn't it?
It really does.
The source does a great job illustrating how many of our core procedures are actually designed with autonomy in mind. Things like prompting hierarchies that you fade out quickly, shaping new skills step by step, chaining behaviors together to build complex routines.
Fading supports.
Right, fading supports.
Yeah.
Using condition reinforcers the person actually values, setting up token economies where they make the exchange.
Creating supportive environments. All of it.
Yeah, all those tools, as the source describes, are aimed at boosting that person's ability to function independently.
And the ultimate goal here, as the source explains it, isn't to make someone dependent on the RBT or the BCBA forever.
Yeah.
It's to build skills so the person can get reinforcement, navigate their world, with less and less help from a mediator, empowering them to eventually sort of deliver their own reinforcers.
Building self-management, choice-making.
Yeah.
It's all tied together.
Exactly. Which leads nicely into principle number 3, benefiting others.
Okay.
At its core, the source material states that our primary role as behavior professionals is to work for the benefit of others. Whatever setting, whatever situation.
Seems straightforward enough. benefit others.
Well, yes, but the source points out a pretty significant challenge this can create in practice. It can often put the behavior analyst and, by extension, the RBT kind of at odds with other people, other professionals, maybe family members, sometimes whole systems. They might have different ideas about what's beneficial or competing priorities.
I see. So different stakeholders might want different things.
Exactly. Which is why the source hammers home this crucial question, one you need to ask frequently. Who is the client? In this specific situation right now, whose benefit are you ethically obligated to prioritize according to the code?
That constant check. Who is the client? That seems vital for navigating those tricky team dynamics. Okay, principle 4. Being just.
Being just. The source presents this basically as coming from the universal golden rule.
Treat others as you would like to be treated.
Pretty much. But the material offers a really powerful refinement to that. It suggests asking yourself, how would I want my mother or my child to be treated in similar circumstances?
Oh, that's interesting. Shifting it from me to someone you care deeply about.
Yeah, it adds a different layer, doesn't it? A kind of empathy, maybe moral weight to thinking about fairness, and questions about just treatment. They come up a lot in ABA.
Why is that?
Because, as the source notes, we often start out knowing very little about why a behavior is happening. We can't just assume we know the function.
Right, we have to assess.
We have to actively work to figure out the real functional relationships driving that behavior, not just make assumptions or jump to interventions based on, prejudgments. Treating someone justly means taking the time to understand their behavior functionally before you try to change it.
That reframed golden rule is a great practical tool.
Yep.
Okay, principle 5. Being faithful.
Being faithful. The source talks about how trust is really the bedrock that a professional's reputation is built on.
Makes sense.
So being faithful means being loyal, trustworthy, and honest. The source links this directly to RBT Code 1.03, which is about professional relationships and communication.
So honesty, integrity.
Yeah, building that trust by being truthful and honest with clients, their families, your colleagues, administrators. It's fundamental. And the source highlights this isn't just, nice to do.
Essential.
It's the foundation for building positive long-term relationships, for having a successful career. When people trust you, collaboration works better, and ultimately, client outcomes are better.
Trust really is everything in our field. Okay, principle 6 brings us to according dignity.
Dignity, yeah. The source material acknowledged that, look, many clients we serve might not be able to effectively represent themselves.
Right, maybe nonverbal or communication challenges make it hard for people to really listen.
Exactly. And when someone's needs and wishes aren't known or they aren't given chances to make choices, the source suggests this can lead to really significant challenges, potentially things like depression or challenging behaviors emerging. And while it's not a technical behavioral term, the source notes that low self-esteem seems to capture that painful feeling of not being afforded dignity.
So as behavior professionals, what's our job then?
Fundamentally, our job is to make sure every client is treated with profound dignity and respect, always.
And the source gives us some really concrete behavioral ways to do that, right?
It does. One key way is focusing on teaching acquisition skills. Skills that empower clients to actually voice or signal their needs and preferences more effectively.
Giving them a voice.
Giving them a voice. Another is just consistently providing choices throughout the day. Preferences for food, clothing, activities, where they hang out, even things about their living situation.
And the source connects these actions to RBT codes 2.01 and 2.02 about responsibility to clients and maintaining boundaries.
Right. But beyond the formal programming, the source points out there are more subtle ways we accord dignity. Equally important, though.
Like what?
Like the language we use to clients, and significantly the language we use about clients when we're talking to staff or family.
Okay.
The source gives a great example. If you want to know Bertha's preferences for her treatment plan, sure, you can ask the staff, you can ask her family, but according dignity means asking Bertha herself directly whenever that's possible.
Makes perfect sense.
And even simple things, addressing clients by name, using eye contact, offering a pleasant smile. The basic respectful treatment you'd expect if you went to the doctor's office. All those things demonstrate dignity and respect.
Little things that make a big difference. Okay, principle 7. Treating others with caring and compassion.
Yeah, and the source material highlights how this one isn't totally separate. It actually kind of flows naturally from several of the others we just talked about.
How so?
Well, think about it. If you're actively respecting a client's autonomy, if you're consistently working to benefit them, and if you're implementing programs carefully to ensure they're afforded dignity.
You're already showing care and compassion through your actions.
Exactly, you inherently are. The source adds, though, that beyond these actions, this principle also suggests maybe a more interpersonal element. You know, showing sympathy, genuine concern in your interactions, your relationships with clients and colleagues.
It's that human element woven into the technical practice.
Got it.
Principle number 8, pursuit of excellence.
Excellence! As the source notes, behavior analysis isn't like a static field. It's growing, it's evolving rapidly.
That's for sure.
And that growth puts a responsibility on all of us, RBTs included, to stay current.
So keeping up.
Keeping up. Our source emphasizes how important it is to stay updated on new developments in the field and, critically, stay informed about updated rules and regulations from the BACB. They post them regularly in the BACB newsletter.
Okay, so checking the newsletter is key.
Definitely. Excellence, in this context, means being aware of the latest evidence-based research that's relevant to what you do. And for an RBT, this translates into actively working with your BCBA supervisor.
Collaborating.
Right. Making sure your team is using the most current, most effective methods and procedures out there.
The source even suggests things like, if you can, subscribing to key journals or maybe attending state association meetings as ways to really engage in that pursuit of excellence.
Yeah, proactive steps. Okay, finally we get to principle 9, accepting accountability.
Accountability.
RBTs hold, a tremendous amount of responsibility in the treatment process. You're right there on the front lines. You're the one directly implementing the plan the BCBA supervisor developed.
So fidelity is key here.
Fidelity is the core of it, according to the source. Treatment fidelity means following the plan exactly as you were trained and exactly as it's written. That precision, it's vital for the client's progress and for actually knowing if the intervention is working.
And there's another big piece of accountability mentioned.
Yes. Taking data.
Yeah.
Accurately. According to the specific protocol you were given, that's critical. It's non-negotiable, really.
Because the data tells the story.
Exactly. The data tells the team if the plan is working. It guides every future decision. Without accurate data, the BCBA can't supervise effectively. They can't adjust the plan properly.
And the client's progress is put at risk.
Precisely. The data is a direct measure of your accountability in implementing that treatment with fidelity.
Okay, so when we step back and look at all 9, doing no harm, respecting autonomy, benefiting others, being just, being faithful, according dignity, treating others with caring and compassion, pursuit of excellence, and accepting accountability.
Wow. Yeah, it's quite a list. But together, they really do form this comprehensive ethical framework. It underpins everything we do in behavior analysis.
They're not just abstract ideas floating out there. They're the fundamental foundation, guiding RBTs, guiding you in your daily interactions, your decision-making.
Every single day. And the source makes another really insightful point. It says that, formal ethical training, it doesn't really start when you get your certification.
Right. It starts much earlier. Childhood, family, culture.
Exactly. We all come in with our own set of personal morals learned over time.
But sometimes.
Those deeply held personal beliefs might run into situations in professional practice that aren't so clear-cut, or maybe even conflict with professional standards.
And that's where the code comes in.
That's precisely why we have professional ethics codes, like the RBT Ethics Code, to provide a clear, consistent framework for navigating those complex situations, to make sure we maintain the highest standard of care and conduct.
So by understanding and really internalizing these principles from Chapter 2, the hope is, and our source material echoes this, that RBTs embrace these values, which in turn strengthens the whole profession.
And enhances the respect given to the field of behavior analysis. It's about building a practice based on trust, competence, and, genuine care.
Couldn't agree more. As we wrap up this deep dive into your source material, here's maybe a final thought for you, the listener, to carry forward. Reflect on these 9 principles. Many of them, as we noted, have echoes in ethical thinking going back thousands of years. How does that deep kind of ancient lineage, how does it connect with the incredibly dynamic, data-driven, rapidly evolving field of behavior analysis that you're part of today?
That's a great question to ponder.
Yeah. What does that powerful connection mean for your own personal growth, your commitment to ethical practice every day, and your own pursuit of excellence in the important work that you do?
Thank you for joining us for this deep dive.
We really hope we provided you with a clearer understanding of the profound ethical foundation beneath your important role as an RBT.